Hi, I'm Kristin Clark, and I'm here with Bobby Hood and Tammy Hoyman today to talk about warning signs your college student may be struggling. And guys, with College Planning Untangled, what we try to do is help you simplify not only the college planning process, but also kind of all things having to do with college and making sure that, we talk through subjects that are important to families. So, Bobby, how are you doing today?
I'm just great. I'm excited today to talk about, stress in college. Like that's on a lot of parents' minds right now. So
It
I'm really glad.
is. Yeah, and Tammy's coming to us. She's a licensed independent social worker as well as the CEO for EFR. And Tammy, why don't you tell everybody what EFR is so that they have an idea of what you do?
Sure, thank you. EFR stands for Employee and Family Resources. We are a private nonprofit organization based in Des Moines, Iowa. We provide counseling and support services right here in central Iowa, as well as a nationwide employee assistance program. So we're really reaching people from coast to coast and providing a lot of support to a lot of employees and their family members.
Yeah. So, I got to tell you, this is kind of near and dear to my heart right now to talk about this because I spent the weekend at TCU on their campus at one of the games, but it was also Parents Weekend. And we know that October is, I officially hate my roommate month, right? So lots of stress going on campuses. But today, what we wanted to talk about is what are some of the warning signs that we need to be looking for as parents to figure out if your college student is struggling or they're just going through kind of normal, daily highs and lows.
Right.
So, yeah. So I think, the first place that I'd like to start, Tammy, is, I think as parents, you need to set certain boundaries on when you're going to get involved and when you're not. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, it is one of the hardest things, I think, for parents to navigate that changing relationship with your college student. They're no longer living under your roof. They're more than likely living on campus. And so figuring out how much contact and how much involvement you should really have with your student is, it's a difficult decision. It's really important, I believe, for their social and emotional development and well-being to give them some space. And what I mean by that is not too many phone calls, not too much monitoring of their activities, their grades. Um, Give them an opportunity to work on that independence and that self-discipline. And, for some parents, it's easier than others. Some parents are feeling really confident that their student is prepared, and you just wait for the phone call. How you doing? What's going on? Or the text, like I should say, text message these days. I don't know any college students that really use the phone for
Yeah,
calls much.
it's not like back in the day when we were like, okay, on
No.
Sundays we're calling, right?
Right, right. So I think with all of the technology that is available to us, it is even more important for us as parents to to pay attention to those boundaries, because it's so easy just to be in constant contact with your student, but that may not be the best thing for them. Um, on the other end of the spectrum, you certainly don't want to cut off contact and say, okay, that's it, I'm done. More than likely, they still need your support. And so I think what I would encourage is finding that good balance. And you know, what does your particular student need from you? And
Yeah.
having that
And you know what?
conversation.
Yes, and that's where I was going with this too. It's like ask your kiddo and
Yeah.
find out kind of where they want to be because you do have all ends of the spectrum on this. You've got the kid that's like, I want to talk to you every day, and then you're like the kid that's like, okay, if you want to talk once a week, I'll make it happen, right?
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
like follow their lead because
Yeah.
you're right. It's their time to go out and kind of start spreading their wings, and you don't have to be in the middle of everything anymore. It's
Right.
kind of
Right.
what you hopefully we're teaching them along the way, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Yeah. So now we've set boundaries. And what happens when, we maybe suspect something? How do we listen for clues to really understand if your kid's struggling or if they're just giving you lip service, telling us they're okay?
Right, right. Well, I think again, it comes down to knowing your own kid. And what I would encourage parents to do is look for changes. Um, are things not seeming like your student? Are they, I mean, of course, there's going to be some changes. They're growing, they're becoming independent adults. But have have you seen some more significant shifts in their behavior, their appearance, their communication? Are things different than you expected them to be with your student in terms of, how often they're calling you? I mean, are they visually upset? Are they crying? Are they, calling you in a tizzy and, expressing? I mean, obviously, if you get a call from your student saying, "I'm freaking out. I can't do this. I can't keep
Right.
up with this." I mean, that's the pretty obvious sign. On the other hand, I think there are behaviors that indicate, are they sleeping? Ask them, are you going down and having your meals on the meal plan? Are you getting out and getting some exercise? What are you doing for fun? And if things don't seem right, they probably aren't. I think we need to trust our gut. And I think we need to acknowledge that this is a really difficult time for a lot of students, and a lot of students arrive at college with a diagnosed mental illness or an undiagnosed mental illness.
Yeah.
So, depression, anxiety, very, very common. And this is also the age of when a lot of mental illness is diagnosed.
Right.
So I think as a parent, just paying attention to those things. And you don't have to diagnose your kid. I mean, that in fact, I would
Right.
discourage that.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can tell them when they might need to go talk to
Right.
someone. And
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm hearing here is, that you start with the boundaries, because if you're texting 16 times a day, then your kid may pull away from you, right?
Mhm,
But if you're
mhm.
never texting at all, then they're going to feel like you don't care and you're not paying
Right.
attention.
Right.
But if you have a healthy like expectation where you're like, okay, let's plan on, if I don't hear from you for a couple of days, you'll probably hear from me. But if you text me once every few days, then we'll probably, you won't, or whatever, right? And if it's
Right.
something like that, then it's easier to see those changes, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
also, if you just make it sort of casual, like, hey, so what's going on? What's fun? What are you doing? And if the
Right.
answers start changing, right? Because I think, as we talk about so much
Right.
on this live stream, is like on College Planning Untangled, is, students, 30% don't return after the first year. Is that the
Right.
correct statistic? Right. And a lot of times what happens is either they're not sleeping at all because they're out doing stuff and they aren't doing any homework, and then everything gets out of control, or they're doing nothing but sleeping and they're never leaving their dorm room. Right. And
Right.
I think it would be very tempting to, like, have trackers and stuff and be constantly monitoring. But I think that would affect your own mental health as a
Right.
parent. Right.
Right.
So yeah, those are
Yeah. And
what I'm hearing so far.
part of that balance around the boundaries and wanting to check in is keep it conversational.
Yes.
Yes, you are the parent, and yes, you are interested and concerned about how your kid is doing, but also say, hey, yeah, well, Dad and I went out to dinner with the Smiths last night, and this is what we're up to this weekend, so that they don't feel like they're being interrogated.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
you are going to push them away. You're exactly right on that one, Bobby.
And I will tell you, so let's talk about a controversial subject here. Bobby, you brought it up, the trackers. Okay. Yeah. So I can tell you, I see a lot of chatter about this on Facebook pages. And if anybody that's listening, if you want to chime in on this, please feel free to do so. I already warned you. I know it's controversial. I can tell you for us, we had Life 360 on our kids' phones. Okay.
Mhm.
However, I would tell you, I feel like we did it in a healthy way in that it wasn't a constant subject. It was in high school, for instance, if we're like, oh, you know what? Matt's at the Johnsons. It's all good. We don't have to worry. I can go to sleep. Right.
Mhm.
Very rarely did it become a subject for conversation. Okay.
Mhm.
The other thing is we did have a kiddo that struggled in college with a little bit of depression and, just questioning, why am I here? Why am I, all the good things that happen to a lot of people and a lot of kids in college for sure.
Mhm.
For us, it was a way for us to go, he hasn't left his apartment in 3 days.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So at that point, it kind of gave us where we could at least monitor that. I'll
Mhm.
go
Yes.
back to, so that made sense. We weren't the ones though going in and going, it's 2 a.m. and they're still out. It's like, that's
Right.
none of my business, right? You're off on
Yeah.
your own. It's none of my business. So I
Right.
think you really have to be careful about that. Like you said, Bobby, adding to your own stress, you almost have to set your own boundaries as to
Mhm.
their job in college is to spread their wings and do all the things that college is supposed to help prepare you for, right? So
Man,
Yes.
absolutely.
yeah.
Mhm.
And you guys feel free to to push back on my theory around this, but I just think that there's a great way to use it and many ways to not use it in a great way.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And, when I talk to my kids about sharing their location, I said, I want to know if you've lost your phone, don't you want
Yeah.
me to be able to help you find it? And
Right.
that's come in handy more than once. And again, I don't want to check the location excessively.
Right.
Because it would be very easy to get obsessed with it.
Mhm.
So I think I'm with you, Kristin. I would say it's good to have it. It's not good to,
Yeah. Be
constantly
obsessed
be
with it.
staring at. Mhm.
Yeah. And I can tell
Yeah.
you one of the things I'll just share with parents out there, the way we help justify it with our kids too, is we're like, you're getting a lot more leeway from us.
Yeah.
Because I do kind of know where you're at. So I can go to sleep at night and I'm not requiring you to be back at 10 o'clock instead of midnight or, whatever those rules
Yeah.
are. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. And so to kind of putting that together, it's just like this is about, you know, watching all of our own mental health and checking on our own, you know,
Mhm.
creating patterns that are healthy for all of us as parents, as students, for everyone.
Right.
That's going to reduce risks. And that's what we're
Right.
talking about. Right. And
Right.
so then the question is like, how do you know when to worry? Because I bet
Mhm.
parents, if, oh my gosh, they didn't go to class today. Well, you can be sick for a day, right? Like, when should you actually be worried and start actually, when should you be like, okay, this is normal? And then when should I worry?
Right, right. Well, I think, when you're watching out for those warning signs, those
Mhm.
changes in behavior, changes in appearance, unusual activity, those kinds of things. Um, I mean, you know your kid.
Mhm.
I mean, when does it become excessive? And, I think if you're someone who wakes up in the middle of the night and you happen to check and they are out past 2 a.m. pretty frequently, I think it's a good idea after, especially during the school week,
Mhm.
you know, uh, help me understand what you're doing out and, it's your life and you need to make these choices, but just want to make sure that you're not getting in over your head, how your class is going, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
I think any of that excessive behavior, Kristin, you mentioned sleeping. I mean, that is not uncommon that depression turns into sleep and just avoidance
Mhm.
of everything. And so, I think when things seem to be getting excessive, I think that's when you start intervening with more questions,
Mhm.
um, sharing that you're having concerns. I think that parents underestimate how much of an impact that they can have by just
Mhm.
saying, I'm really worried about you, or I'm really concerned about you.
Mhm.
Um, and, they're adults. They are going to be making some choices that you may or may not agree
Mhm.
with. And sometimes it is just a time to back off, but sometimes it's time to step in. And, like you said, 30% of students don't return. We also know there are lots and lots of temptations and
Mhm.
uh, different choices that students can make on college campuses. With it, if those things are experimented with within moderation, I think most parents would expect that. However, anything to the excess is usually not good. So,
Yeah, and I would have to imagine like there's like it's just asking the questions, right? Because if you try to keep it conversational and you say, "Hey, I see you've been out a lot, late at night, and I'm not like tracking you every minute, but I just, I've noticed this and I'm worried about you." Like there are lots of answers you could get, and one answer
yeah,
could be, "I have a new boyfriend or girlfriend, and I stayed up late talking to them." Okay,
right,
that's one thing, but I'm
sure,
out at a bar or another thing, or hey, get out of my business. I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing, which probably is the big warning sign, right? If they answer and they don't seem stressed about it, then maybe, yeah, maybe they're in control, right? But if they're
mhm,
like, hey, I don't want to say, that means they're embarrassed by what they were doing, and don't want to tell
right,
you. And maybe that means they might have gotten involved in something that's dangerous, or whatever,
right,
right? And
right.
it's just listening, right? And staying conversational and trying to be their friend as much as you can, right?
And
Absolutely,
I'd say
absolutely.
too, after spending a weekend on the TCU campus, and by the way, I was there with a friend that has a freshman there, right? And
No.
we spend quite a bit of time with her. I think too, I didn't really think about this, but the colleges probably build some of that in so that you do have that little bit more extended time with your family.
Hmm.
You can for if you only go for dinner, you can get through dinner without that kid being looking like they're in distress or whatever. But when you're
Right.
there for a whole weekend,
Yeah.
you start to figure out, if they're agitated or just having not bathing or whatever those things are, right?
Right.
That are warning signs. So I think taking advantage of those opportunities when you can too. Now I know I
Yes.
had a kid that was 9 hours away and another kid that was 4 hours away, and sometimes you can't do that. But hey,
Right.
listen, once in a while, not don't overdo this, I would say too, but
Right.
once in a while, the surprise, we're here isn't a bad
Yeah.
idea either if you're concerned. I mean,
If you're concerned.
if you're concerned, I'm
Mm,
a big believer in letting them do what they want to do,
Yeah.
and experiencing college. But if you're concerned, I think the surprise show up is not a bad thing
sure, sure.
in
And I
moderation.
think even if you have a kid who reacts in the like it's none of your business
Mhm.
kind of way, I think that you can still be helpful to them and just say, are you aware what kind of resources are available on campus
Right.
just in case,
Yeah.
that's fine. If I'm not the one that's going to be your helper, is there a counseling center on campus? Are there any local resources? Do you know your RA? Who do
Right.
you have friends that you can reach out to and talk through the stress? I mean, you're right. I can't relate. I went to college so long
Forever
ago.
ago. Yeah.
Well, we
Yeah,
always bring that up. Find like make sure you point out, know where that counseling center is, know where the medical center is, and
yeah,
where is it, and make sure that there's no stigma that you discussed.
right.
There's like that this is a time when people can discover all kinds of things they need help with, and they have the resources. They spend so much resources on helping students with this. You are not
Absolutely.
alone if you are in that situation.
Right,
Oh my
right.
gosh, for sure. And I was looking on my phone because I had an app and I still have it. I'm just going to have to find it because I haven't had to get to it recently. But it does tell all of the resources on every
Yeah.
college campus. And I know I've
Mm,
shared it on here before. Um, that if I find this, guys, I will put it in the chat for you. But it's great because it does tell you just here's are the phone numbers for your counseling
right.
centers and all of that stuff.
Hmm.
So,
Absolutely. I think that even beyond the campus, I think a lot of times having your student familiar with the city or town where they are. I mean, even if the college is not that large or fully prepared, look beyond that as well. And so I think just knowing what's available is really helpful.
Yes, and I'll tell you, Tammy, the other thing I would say is don't wait till the last minute to figure that out.
Yeah.
Just figure it out now, put it on your list. And because if something does come up and you're scrambling, it's a lot harder to find that stuff.
It is. And you're not thinking straight when you're in crisis or when you're excessively
Correct.
worried. So, be prepared.
Yes. And I'm just going to bring up the last thing, because I had brought it up originally about the I Hate My Roommate month. I just want parents to know I've gone through 2 kids. I've had lots of friends going through kids. It happens every October. And, this is another one of those instances. It might be a great time for you to coach your kid through having relationships and putting up with people that are messy when you're not, or vice versa. And you always have the option of trying to have your kid change their dorm room, and change roommates. I'd say that's a last resort, because this is a great experiment in resiliency and having them just figure it out. So, yeah,
absolutely.
So it's just normal. It's normal.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. It is. And I just, that experience of learning to work through those differences and work through those conflicts is, I think, as valuable as whatever they're gaining academically.
100%.
I feel like every kid should be thrown into that situation where you have to live with a stranger, because it prepares you for the rest of your life. I mean, few people get to work in a place where they already knew people.
Right.
When they get there, few people get to move into a neighborhood that they know people already. So,
and cubicles are surprisingly similar to dorm rooms. So
yes, they are.
Yes,
they are for sure. And I'll throw in one thing. Bobby knows this. I'm the fact girl, so I like looking at research. And one of the things that the research has always shown for those moms and dads that are getting ready to send a kid off to college soon, the dorm rooms that you actually have 2 to 3 to a room, they actually say prepare your kid for life much better than the apartment style. And they're actually much healthier because they have that sense of community right away. So just realize when you're trying to decide, those old dorm room styles are actually the way to go if you're a mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, because if you hide in your room and with the door closed, that's one thing. But if you are on the other bunk or whatever, at some point, roommate's going to be like, "Hey, you haven't been to class in days. Like, are you ever going to get out of bed and take a shower?"
Right.
You get that peer pressure. It's important and it's helpful, and it makes them realize someone cares. But you could, if you're alone in a room, it's easy to feel like, oh, nobody cares about me, and just get in your head about it.
Well, and at least you're seeing eyeballs. So
yeah, absolutely. Yep. I think this is just so important, and it's so valuable, and I really appreciate Tammy you coming on, telling us about these things. For those who are watching, this is not our first visit with Tammy, so you can go back and see another one, and we will be back again to continue these discussions. This is wonderful.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about these important topics that, I think for a long time weren't really discussed. So I thank you for bringing this to light.
Absolutely. And we'll be seeing you next month, Tammy. We've got another subject that we're going to be talking about. And I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, if you guys know. So I will put out a post when we're getting close to that. Oh, thanks, Bobby.
It is preparing socially and emotionally for the life transition to college, I believe. Is that?
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, either way, it's all about.
I think that's the idea.
It's all about mental health when we're on with Tammy. So, definitely chime in. And as you guys know, you can always catch Bobby and I, ask any college planning questions that you have. And our information, as well as Tammy's, is in the post. So.
Absolutely. Contact us anytime. We're happy to answer questions, and always interested in talking about anything related to college, not just getting in, but the experience once you're there.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank
We'll talk
you.
next time.
Take
Thank
care.
you.